Welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast. Here is Monir El Azzouzi from easymedicaldevice.com. And today we'll help you to solve some common mistakes. So each time you have maybe an audit or each time you have some issues, there are always sometimes the same mistakes, and we try to gather some of the common mistakes that we know. And I have with me Karandeep Badwal, which is a QA area consultant like me, and he's working in the UK. And we are really happy to have you. So hi, Karandeep.
Hello, Monir, and thank you for having me on the show once again.
Great. Thank you very much to be here. And as I've said, the idea is really to try to educate or give some tips about the common mistakes, tell the people that didn't make those mistakes to be careful of that, or those that made the mistakes, here is how you can solve it. But just quickly before we start, so can you make a small introduction of yourself, who you are exactly?
Sure. I'm Karandeep. I'm based in the UK. I'm a quality and regulatory consultant working within medical devices. I initially started off my career working with traditional devices, your pacemakers, defibrillators, etc. And as with the boom in the industry and the excitement that's coming with software intelligence and things like that, software devices, artificial intelligence, surgical robotics, I've been working more towards that side over the past 2 years. And just like yourself, I make videos as well where I teach people about quality and regulatory. And I also have a podcast called the Medtech Podcast too.
Exactly. So don't hesitate to also go to see Karandeep Badwal's podcast. He also makes videos on LinkedIn or YouTube, where you can see also small videos about different topics that are really educative. So really, I'm really advising you to go and look at that. Okay, Karandeep. So as we said, so we have some common mistakes. I mean, you came with some common mistakes and we reviewed that together, and just to see if this is something that we can present. And we have around 7 groups of mistakes, if I can say, that we want to talk about. And I'll let you introduce maybe the first one. So what is the first mistake that we are always seeing?
So the common mistake I'm seeing, and this is especially with software medical device companies, is software validation. Companies are not validating the software that they're bringing in. They often, if it's a software device, they're validating their product, which is perfectly fine, or any sort of homebrew software that they've done. But if they're buying off-the-shelf software, things like Confluence, Jira, Google Drive, even Microsoft Office, depending on the extent of which they're using it and the impact it can have on their quality management system or medical device, it has to be validated. What do I mean by validation? Is it able to do the job that you want it to do consistently and provide the results that you need? That's the common mistake that I'm seeing with a lot of companies.
And I'm also always seeing that. And one thing that we had as a comment, if I can say, is, but Jira or SharePoint or those things, they are made by Microsoft or things like that. So they are validated. So what would you answer to that?
Yes, they're validated. They have very many features, but you have a medical device. You have certain functions within your quality management system. So, for example, for Jira, some companies use it for CAPA workflow. Some companies use it for non-conforming product. If you're using something like Trello, that may be linked to your complaint system. If you look at the clauses of ISO 13485, these are requirements within there. And if you're using the software for that purpose, how do you know that it's able to do that job properly? And I'll give you a funny example. I come across companies where I say to them, for example, what is your complaint system? And they say, okay, you send us an email and then we automatically get it onto our Trello board and then we investigate it from there. Great. And this was a company I was having a weekly call with. Between that call and the one next week, I went onto their website and I wrote a fake complaint. And I thought, I'm going to test these guys. So the next call comes along and I said, guys, how's your Trello system working? Do you mind showing it to me? And they're like, yeah, great. You can see that there's no complaints here. I said, hold on a minute. I sent a complaint to you last week. Now do you understand the importance of validation?
Exactly. I mean, it's exactly that. As you've said, Microsoft, maybe the different companies, when they made the software, they maybe didn't make it for your purpose, for the emergency to receive those information, for this kind of thing. So you have to validate it for what you are trying to do about it. So it's mainly your purpose. What is the risk? As you said, maybe the risk is to not receive a complaint. Let's try to send 10 complaints from different websites, different provider, and see if all the complaints are arriving or not, if there is some issues. But you have to test it on your purpose. And what you've said also at the beginning, it's what is written on the ISO 13485, I think for chapter 4 or something like that, where it says you have to validate software that are related to your quality data, quality system, quality information. So as soon as you are using the data in terms of quality as an input for quality indicators or purpose, then this should be validated. So it means that if this is a software that has no quality purpose, there is no need of validation. I mean, per regulation, per standard, there is no need of validation. Is it correct?
Yeah, that's completely correct. And that's another thing I say to companies is, within your software validation plans, put down the software that's out of scope and why you justify that. Because an auditor may come along saying, I disagree with you. I think this is part of your QMS and you should have it validated. You can always pull out the plan and say, no, this is our justification. We looked into it and it's not part of it. So importantly, if you deem that a software is not part of your quality management system, write that down, keep the justification on record. Come audit time, you can show that to the auditors.
Exactly. I mean, this can be a simple thing to do and to avoid a big issue with auditors, because auditors will ask that to you anyway. They will ask you, can you show me that your process is validated and that it's working? Showing first that you have a process for validation of those kind of things is great. Second, showing that you have made some tests, and the test can maybe be not complete or perfect because you cannot think of all possible tests to do. So, but it's better to have something, even if it's not maybe perfect, than nothing at all. But because all along the life of the device or software, you maybe identify new issues and then you'll have to test and revalidate those issues. Like what you talked about, the email that they haven't received. So now they have to investigate why they haven't received that, what kind of tests they can do to verify or change within their process, which is, I think, something great. Do you have any other tips for this kind of elements here?
Yes, so you've got your functional and you've got your non-functional requirements. Look at other things as well. What is the risk of hacking into this software? Do you need to have multi-factor authentication? Do you need to have strong passwords in place? Also control your access. You want everybody in the company to be able to access approved standard operating procedures, but you don't want everybody in the company to have access to the drafts and maybe using superseded versions. So you want control to that as well. Also have a backup for your backup. So when I say to companies, how are you storing your files? Oh, it's on SharePoint or it's on G Drive. You may remember that a few months ago, G Drive went down for a couple of hours. If you were sitting there in front of the auditor, you can't say, oh, sorry, Google Drive is shut down. I can't give you the documents. Have a backup for your backup in place. What are you going to do if that company shuts down tomorrow? You can't knock on their headquarters and get your files back. So always have a backup in place. And again, test that and validate that system. If you've got a business continuity plan in place, test that it actually works. So if you're downloading that backup, great. Can you restore it? Is it going to work? Put something like that in place. Yeah,
exactly. And it's part also of the archive procedure where you have to be able to access, even when a document is obsolete, you have to access it during 10 years after last product you sell. So it's also important to prove also to an auditor that you have backups, you have possibilities to get the documents, even if they were obsoleted or whatever. So I think it's also important here. Great. So number 2, what is the topic number 2?
Supplier evaluation, another interesting one. Often I come across companies and manufacturers, especially this one. Who are your suppliers? Oh, this company is, doing this for us. This company is doing sterilization. I'm your consultant. Why am I not on your supply list?
Exactly.
I'm supplying you a service.
I'm laughing because it's exactly I'm saying that even when they hire me for doing internal audit, I say, why I'm not on your supplier list? You should evaluate me as a consultant or service provider, but I have to be on your supplier list because I am an external company that is coming for auditing you or for helping you or whatever. So yeah, I think this is one that I'm seeing a lot with companies, which I understand because for them, we are coming to help them. So it's more like we have to tell them exactly what to do. But when we tell them, oh, you have also to include me on the thing, say, why do I need to do that? Because you are here to help me on that. Because I'm a supplier, you have to evaluate your supplier and you have to tell, for example, if I need an ISO standard, if I need whatever. I mean, you are putting your criteria for evaluation. But yes, even us as consultants, our companies should be listed on your approved supplier list, even if it's a low risk, or it can be considered low risk. I saw that also on the MDSAP. MDSAP questions, they ask you, is there any consultants that is also helping you for quality things or design or whatever? And you have to see them on your approved supplier list.
Completely agree. Also, notified bodies, people miss out that completely. They are supplying you the certification service or they're auditing you. And that's a funny one sometimes. I've actually sat down an audit and saying, and this was a BSI audit, saying, why is BSI not on your approved supplier list? We are supplying you a service.
Exactly. But it's the question is, and it's the trickiest one. So here, the problem is that you have to evaluate also your suppliers. So will you go to evaluate or knock at the door of BSI and say, oh, I come and audit you also? I mean, for sure, you have to put some criteria to say, as soon as it's accredited laboratory, there is no need maybe to make an audit, and notified body like BSI are accredited, so they have an accreditation. But when it's a supplier that is providing you some components, you have to do this. When it's a high-risk critical suppliers, you have to do an audit at this place. So you have to define also these elements. But it's true that notified bodies, I mean, it is a private company, it's not an authority. So it's a private company, and they should also be in the list. But I don't advise you to go to audit them, if I can say, because this can be a bit tricky here.
Yeah, I think it's a case of controlled and uncontrolled suppliers. So, if you're using things like Amazon, Microsoft, you're not going to go to their headquarters and get a signed supply quality agreement with them. However, you would have some sort of contract with them in place when you are buying their services. You would do a risk assessment on that. Say, okay, what are the risks of using this software? What can we use to mitigate that? And put that down as evidence. Of course, if you're a manufacturer and you have a private contract with the company, then yes, you can have something tailored towards you. So it's really a case of what can you control? What can't you control? If you can't control it, then, just mitigate as far as possible effectively.
No, I think it's great. Okay. What is the next one?
Clear procedures. And this is an interesting one. Companies often make the mistake where they look at ISO 13485 and says, you must do this. And in their procedure, they just write, we will do this. Okay. Who is going to do it? When are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? And where is it going to be recorded? That's what I want to see. An SOP is instructions. Fine, great. You've told me what you're going to do, but how exactly are you going to be doing this? That's the problem. So who, what, when, where, and why? And
this is also something that we are seeing a lot. Sometimes we are seeing some companies that they do great, if I can say. They have good documentation in terms of formulas, for example, or this or that, but there is no procedure at all. They just say, yes, we are recording this or we are getting that. And you see documents say, it looks great, but if you link all that in a procedure, then it will be perfect. It will be really, really great. But yeah, true that the idea that you have to have, and it's what we are doing with companies, we say to them, write what you do. So don't need to think too much, just write what you do. And then the idea is do what you write. So many don't put more than what you normally do on the procedure because of that. And you write who is doing that, when should it be done, the frequency, etc. I mean, it looks basic, but it's something that is a lot missed during the review of that. And it's always a bit funny during internal audits when you are saying, oh, are you doing this? Yes, we are doing that. Can you prove it to me? And then it's like, no, but we are just having an oral discussion with people and say, it's not working. You have to have some clear evidence, or you have to write exactly the way that you can prove that through a procedure. But clear procedures, I think this is mainly the topic of making the audits or internal audits or audits from notified bodies, because this is the topic where if it's not clear, it's not working. But the other part, and maybe you can talk about that, what is important about clear procedures is also that when somebody is sick or is not able to come and you have to replace him by somebody else, I think a procedure is key in that way.
Yeah, completely. So an SOP, you should be able to pick up somebody from the road who doesn't work within your company. They should be able to read it and at least have some basic understanding of what this means. So, okay, the QA manager is doing this, great. The QA lead is doing this, great. The manufacturing manager is doing this, great. So I now know what to do. If a stranger doesn't make sense of your standard operating procedure, then it doesn't make sense.
And it's the test that you can do. I mean, I'm not asking you to go on the street and pick anyone to test this, but take anyone from your company that has no relation to that. Ask him to read and say, can you do the job that is written there? And it helps you. It's like a usability test or human factor test to verify that what is written is really understandable. And maybe the person will ask you, oh, it's written that. What's that exactly? And then it means that maybe the definition is not clear, or there is a specific chapter for this element or whatever, but it can help you a lot. But the idea of a procedure is that everybody is doing the same thing. So it means that I will not have a product that has a green color and the second person will make a red color and the third will make a blue color. No, everybody will make the green color for all the products because it's mainly what is written on the procedure on how to do that. But I mean, GDP or good document practices is really something that is well, if I can say, known by notified bodies or auditors, and they will pick that. Yeah. So clear procedure is really an element that you have really to master here.
And there's one other point that I make as well. Always allow your procedures to have deputies in place. If you say the QA manager can only do this, what are you going to do when that QA manager is on holiday or gone off sick? Always have other people in the company who are trained on that procedure, and write in your procedure that in some circumstances, we may deputize this. It will save you a lot of time, because if the QA manager is away, what does that mean? That you just cannot conduct that process? You need to allow for that.
And training, training is also important. So not just give that procedure to anybody to try to do the job, is also to have a proof that this person really understood this procedure, they really understood what to do, and then they can do the job also. So having a recording of an additional person that is trained to a procedure can help you a lot. Okay, next one.
Internal audits. And this is a really interesting one that I find is, well, so a lot of companies make the mistake of auditing their own work. So, and basically a QA lead will sit down, write all the procedures, say, okay, great, I'm going to do an internal audit, and audit themselves. The words used in ISO 13485 are independent. So it has to be somebody. That doesn't mean somebody external. It means there's somebody who's not directly involved in that process. And that's a common mistake I come across companies. So as a QA lead, great, you can audit HR. HR can audit you, but you cannot audit the work that you've written yourself.
And it's true, because and notified bodies are picking up those mistakes a lot. I had once a customer that called me and said, okay, we have had a major non-conformance for our audit because of internal audit, because the auditor was the one that was helping us to put in place the quality management system. And yeah, they cannot come to help you to make a quality management system and then come on internal audit and say, oh, my quality management system that I created is really great. Everything is fine. There is no observation. There is no issue. Everything is okay. And we had also the point of somebody that has created the quality management system, and he find no observation during the audit, the internal audit that he has done, but the notified body has identified a lot of observation. So this is also the point where you should find more than what the notified body is finding instead of the other. Otherwise, they will qualify your internal audit or your process as wrong or not efficient at all. Is there a way that, I mean, we can avoid, I mean, as you've said, you can have the same person within your company doing that, but they are from different departments. And you can hire, I mean, it's what I'm asking for small businesses, hire a consultant like myself or yourself to do that. So usually it's one day audit and you go through all the processes, you provide a report, and it should be fine. But I mean, be careful really of this kind of thing, because the auditor will pick up that. Even me, I got a non-conformance once because the person, but this auditor, so myself, I have no certificate from a training as an ISO 19011, etc. as an auditor. I say, I'm working since 15 years on my CV. I'm doing audits since 15 years. I'm passing audits since 15 years. I mean, I'm auditing people. I'm building quality management system. I show my CV with everything, etc. Oh yeah, but it will be great if you have a certificate. I mean, I will. It's a bit a pity, but at the end, it's like it was fine. At the end, yeah, they were able to get out of that. But even an internal auditor that has experience can also be, have an issue also with auditing companies, if I can say. So next one.
CAPAs. And this is a favorite, and nearly every audit I come across is always the CAPAs that the auditor is going to dig into. And it's not having a proper root cause analysis. I mean, the silliest one that I often see is human error. Yep. Okay, great. It may have been human error, but why did that happen? Because they weren't trained. Okay, why weren't they trained? We never had a policy in place. Why don't we have a policy in place? Top management didn't tell us to have one. That's your root cause. Top management not allocating adequate resources, not human error.
But one problem that we see also is the answer to human error CAPA. So the answer is always awareness training. So it means that we have trained them once, they made a mistake, say, or maybe they were not well trained. So let's redo the training. So we do again an awareness training. So to train them again on what they have been trained on, etc., etc. So as you've said, the idea is really for me, human error is really at the end. It's really the last root cause that you can really imagine. You have really to check all the rest, but if at the end maybe the guy was really tired and he didn't see that, etc., okay, it's maybe a human error. But if it's something that is happening, but because, for example, your infrastructure, your place of work is not well designed because there was a miss on moving the piece from here to here, etc., etc., then it's not a human error. It's just that the environment is not well designed for that. But yeah, human error is really the one that everybody is using because it's quick. We say it's a human error and then we move forward. Is there anything there?
Yeah, and the second part is closing CAPAs too early. So, of course, you put a corrective action in place. You need to spend some time and make sure that that error doesn't happen again. How are you going to validate that your action has actually worked? And you need to do that. In some cases, okay, maybe a week, but realistic with some CAPAs, you may need to have them open for several months. In some cases, even years. You want to sit down and make sure that the action that you have put in place is doing its job. If not, that's fine. Go back, see why it failed, and do it again. But the biggest mistake you can do is close off a CAPA until you are 100% sure that you are certain that this product means this error won't happen again.
Yeah, and I think here there is a misunderstanding between closing the actions and closing the CAPA for effectiveness. When you close for the action, it's the date you closed, if I can say, in terms of action for the CAPA. But yeah, keep it open on your system. But it's not the days that they are open should not be considered as the days where the CAPA is open officially. The CAPA is closed for the actions. Now you are just let it open just to see if there is any collateral issues, identification of any problem that are coming that you have to pick up. But yeah, it's true that some people are just closing immediately, say, oh, it was effective because actions were done, but this doesn't mean it was really effective. And what we are doing is that we are putting an indicator of what is the criteria for effectiveness. Means, for example, we had a lot of issues about a certain problem. We say, okay, within the next 6 months, we should not find this issue again because we have normally solved that. If we picked it within the 6 months, then it means that our CAPA was not really effective. And then we have to reopen it, put again some actions, or etc., etc. So this is really the objective is not just to open, close, and say it's fine. So it's just really to be effective within your actions here. Okay, next one.
So the final one, this is a bit of a bonus and it's more exclusive to software medical device companies. And the two clauses I'm seeing the most confusion with is 6.3 infrastructure,
okay,
and 7.5.10 customer properties, where companies think that these are not applicable to them.
Okay.
Now, with infrastructure, people think of buildings, workspace, etc. Now, borderline, you may be leasing a certain building. You may not have any manufacturing there, may just be an office and you work virtually. That's fine. But the important one there is if you are using some form of information systems, i.e. data storage, etc., that is part of your infrastructure. You need to maintain that. So if you have servers that are effectively taking, patient data in or any data about your devices, even any post-market surveillance, and you're storing that on your site, that is part of your infrastructure and that has to be controlled. Customer property is a very interesting one. So by definition, intellectual property and patient data that you're storing on your systems can be considered to be customer property. So the word property traditionally meant land or housing, and people have it ingrained in their minds. People need to understand that property can also be digital. That is the second part here. So these are two that you really need to think about if you're a software as a medical device company.
And I don't think on the ISO 13485 they authorize to exclude those, if I remember. But I know that there are some specific ones that you can exclude, but not all of them. So yeah, you cannot just say, oh, I don't have a building because I'm working virtually, so I don't have any infrastructure. I mean, as you said, software is really something that is also important here. Okay, and do you have any other topic that we have to cover here?
Yeah, so there's miscellaneous ones, especially with the UK MDR, Brexit, EU MDR. As per the reporting deadlines, MHRA, so within the UK, has 30 days for others. So you've got serious, you've got death, and you've got others, which is 30 days for reporting. The EU is 15 days. Companies need to differentiate between that. So if you're selling both in the UK and the EU, you need to define that if an issue happens in the UK, it's 30 days. Great Britain, or if an issue happens in Europe, it's going to be 15 days. Second point, correct versions of ISO standards. If you are in Great Britain, you want to use the BSEN version of ISO standards. If you're in Europe, you want to use the EN version. And one final point that I come across a lot as well is within your auditing procedure, you need to have something in there about dealing with unannounced audits, checking IDs of auditors, knowing who to contact, and also how to deal with external audits as well. That's something that you need to factor in.
No, I think it's completely fine. All those things. I mean, it's small things that looks like it's not huge, but it can create big problems within your company. So, I mean, I'm advising you really to look at all those small mistakes. And if you have additional mistakes that we haven't covered, so please send that to us and maybe we can make another episode about that. But this is really valid mistakes that we have seen all over, if I can say, within the different companies. Okay, Karandeep, so really thank you. I think really it's helping a lot of our auditor audience, in the audience, people that are maybe seeing those issues or maybe are not seeing those issues now, and we'll see that later. Okay, so where can people follow up with you on all that?
Sure, I'm quite active on LinkedIn, so that's one way of reaching out to me. If you want to reach out to me by email as well, Monir, I'll provide that with you, and you can put that in the description. So that's the best way to reach me.
I'll put that on the show notes. And as I said, so Karandeep has his own podcast. So if you want also to go and listen to that, I think you can find it on maybe Spotify or podcast, Apple Podcast or whatever. So try to register and try to follow up on the different topics. What was the last topic I think you released now?
I don't know. I released so
saw
many.
Blockchain, something about blockchain maybe, or for medical devices.
Oh, yes. So recently on the podcast, I had quite an interesting guest talking about blockchain. And when people think of blockchain, think, cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, but he's telling me it's going to be in medtech. So it's definitely one of those topics that I recommend people should start looking into.
Exactly. I mean, it's a topic that a lot of people talk about in other fields, but never in medical devices. So let's see what it can be on medical devices. So great. So really thank you, Karandeep. And for people that are listening, so don't hesitate to go on the YouTube channel and just put some comments if you have any questions, or if you just like the episode. So just say thank you for the episode. It will be really great. And if you have any questions, if you have any other topics you want to be part of, so don't hesitate also to come back to me. I will try to find the right guest and then to have ask him the questions that you want me to ask. And if you have also any need of support, so don't hesitate also to contact me at info@easymedicaldevice.com, info@easymedicaldevice.com. Okay, great. So Karandeep, thank you very much for your participation, and talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, Monir.
Bye.